Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, it's time to take a look at Falinks, isn't it? I love Falinks. You see, we talked about one the other day, and very nice single prize Pokemon. I got pretty excited. I'll pop a link to that video in the description. It was very cool. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Falinks V. And oh my goodness, this one I like. Now look, I love the Pokemon generally. I'm predisposed to like this one. I am, let's say, far from impartial, but let's not focus on that too much. It looks very, very cool. I should give a shout out to the lovely Antoine Boulet, who has provided our translation, not for the first time today, and not for the last time. But we do need to start off by pointing out it is weak. Like 160 HP for a two-prize Pokemon sucks. In terms of GXs, you're down there with Dedenne and Jirachi, which isn't particularly good. In terms of Pokemon V, you're lower than the previous record holder of Morpeko, not a record you really want to have. But really, this is committing the cardinal sin of being in range of Pikachu and Zekrom's GX attack, that does 200 to the active and 170 to one on the bench. Which means they can KO you for two prizes when you're on the bench. Clearly you need Mew here, but yeah, Mew becomes hyper important. A two-prize Pokemon that has 170 or less in this format, not good. But then we got a retreat cost of 2, which can be paid with Air Balloon. And we got a weakness to Psychic, which again isn't ideal because Mewtwo and Mew remains an amazing card, which is still at the center of the format. But at least we can look at it and go, well, you know what? It's a fighting Pokemon. And fighting Pokemon is good. Fighting Pokemon means you got Diancie Prism Star to do extra damage, Martial Arts Dojo to do extra damage, Karate Belt to reduce your attack cost, and of course, you're hitting weakness against the aforementioned Pikachu and Zekrom. So it could be worse. At least if they're going after you, you can then go after them. But the good news is, we've got a lovely ability rolling here. And the ability says, as long as this Pokemon is in play, all of your Pokemon with Falinks in their name take 20 less damage from your opponent's Pokemon's attacks. And unlike something like Levani, for instance, there's no note here that says it can only be applied once per turn. So that means if you get 4 Falinks out, all of your Falinks are taking 80 less damage from attacks. Now the other thing, which is very important to note here, is that it says with Falinks in their name, not named Falinks. Because of course you've got Falinks and Falinks V, both of which have Falinks in the name, and that works quite nicely here. So the non-V we talked about the other day can also use this. This Pokemon can. So it might only have 160 HP, which initially looks terrible and makes us worry. But if you've got 4 of these out, yeah, you've still got 160 HP, but you're taking 80 less damage from attacks. Which means Pikachu and Zekrom isn't doing 170, they're doing 90. And they don't have to be active to take less damage. Which means any kind of spread deck is going to be out of luck here, unless they're spreading over 80 damage, which is unlikely. And you don't have to be active to protect or be protected, it's just there. And it's not just for the V, and it's not just for the non-V, it's for everyone. It is a really, really nice ability here. It's generally metal Pokemon using stuff like Lucario and Melmetal and Metal Frying Pan, which are the ones that are sitting there reducing damage and lasting forever. Well, now we've got a fighting Pokemon that can basically do the same thing. And this is awesome. And while we're here, I've got to go back to the other Falinks. Because actually, this is pretty important. Because for 2 colorless energy, and yes, twin energy works perfectly here, you do 30 damage for each of your bench Pokemon with Falinks in the name. Not called Falinks, in the name. So now you can have 5 of them on your bench, and now you can be doing 150 for 2 energy. That is only bench Pokemon, it doesn't include the active, but still. And now that's a 90 HP Pokemon, but potentially that's taking 80 less damage from attacks. And now, the non-V turns into a Pokemon that, let's say you've got 1 Falinks and 4 Falinks V on the bench. All of a sudden, for 2 colourless energy, and you can pay it with 1 card, you're hitting 150, and you're taking 80 less damage from attacks, so it's going to take 170 just to get a 1-hit KO. Yeah, this is becoming pretty gosh darned awesome. I'm loving this. Now, to be fair, if you go into the expanded format, you can use Skyfield here, and you can have 8 of these out. Now, annoyingly, you can only have 8, you can't have a 9th, but he's got a bench space for someone else. And now you've got 1 of these in the active attacking, 7 on the bench, and you're doing 210, while having damage done to you reduced by 80. Remember, you can have 4 of the V, 4 of the non-V, but 1 of them's got to be in the active, so even with Skyfield, that's 7 max on the bench. And this makes perfect sense. And one of the cool things here is that we're actually just going to be getting both of these cards in Rebel Clash. So for us, they're actually going to appear in the same set, and it's going to make a whole bunch of sense. These 2 cards together are awesome. It really works. The low HP gets mitigated. The swarming attack becomes way better. And all of a sudden, this is becoming a deck. Now, there is an attack here as well, and the attack's actually kind of cool. 2 fighting, 1 colourless energy, 210 damage. This Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. Now, as for the can't attack next turn, I've talked about this a million times. We didn't care with Ho-Oh. We didn't care with Boswell. We didn't care with Volcanion. I could keep going, but I don't want to. There have been a million Pokemon over the years that couldn't attack next turn. We've got all kinds of switching cards. It really doesn't matter, alright? Don't worry about it. You're doing 210 for free energy. And the thing is that we could compare this to something like Regirock V, and you're just doing more damage. And I like Regirock V, let's make no mistake about this. I love Regirock V. But the fact of the matter is, for the same attack cost, they do 190 and 30 to themselves, you do 210. Now, they've got another 60 HP, but if you play multiples of these, then it doesn't matter. You're reducing damage done to you, and you're actually doing all right. This might be a better option. And as for the attack cost, you can go a little bit silly here. I mean, one of my favourite little things to play around with is using Miss Magius, don't forget Duskstone for a turn 1 ability, to go down on prizes and draw until you got 7 cards in your hand, then use Karate Belt because you're behind on prizes, then use Tapu Koko Prism Star to accelerate a lightning energy over to it, and then all of a sudden you're paying this attack cost on your first turn going second. And you legitimately can do this. And then, of course, you've got Martial Arts Dojo, so if you're behind on prizes, this is 250. And then Diancie Prism Star to do 270. And all right, it's a bit of a combo, but it is genuinely, legitimately viable that you would be able to do 270 turn 1 going second. You need a bunch. Now, you use Miss Magius to draw a bunch of extra cards. After Miss Magius, you need Tapu Koko. You need Karate Belt, you need Martial Arts Dojo, you need Diancie Prism Star, and then just an energy, and then you're doing 270 and getting a 1-hit KO on a Mewtwo and Mew, or a Reshiram and Charizard. Bearing in mind with weakness, Pikachu and Zekrom goes down much, much more easily. You can make a bit of a speed deck with this. Or you can make a bit of a swarm deck using the non-V as well. Or you can use that Colossal I showed you a moment ago, which lets you attach a fighting and a fire energy from your discard to your Pokemon in any way you like, once during your turn. So you pop them both on Falinks here and then attach an energy from your hand and oh look, you're hitting 210 damage. Yeah, this is ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. This is absolutely ridiculous. I can already think of 3 different unique decks that I want to make with this. One is a swarming deck with a non-V. One is just a... well, I would say 210 every turn, but remember, by the time you build in Diancie and Martial Arts Dojo, it's not 210, just consistent deck. And then one where you're going nuts with speed trying to hit 270 turn 1. And it might not work, but you better believe I'm going to be testing the bejesus out of this deck. Because by the time you build in Miss Magius, and you use stuff like Dedenne, and then you start building in stuff like Acrobike, and maybe even Order Pad if you really want to go a bit silly, maybe even Judge Whistle, and Custom Catcher, we've actually got some decent cards at the moment to actually make a full-on speed deck. And yeah, I like it. I really like it. I don't know whether it's just because I woke up in a spectacular mood today. It was Pokemon Day yesterday. There's lots of new Pokemon cards to talk about. I don't have to teach. My daughter and son are cute as buttons. I'm giving it 5 Wassies. And it might just be a reflection of my awesome mood, and if so, I'm kind of alright with that. But I adore this card. You all saw how excited I got over Regirock V. I like this quite a bit more than Regirock V. And when you consider that this could be a swarming deck, or it could just be a consistent 230 plus, or it could be a potential silly combo speed deck. Just to be clear, I don't actually think that's going to be a top tier deck. It's just fun to play around with. This has so many options for being awesome, and I absolutely love it. But I'd like to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are pretty gosh darned awesome nonetheless. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.